Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patrons, Ferdy and Scott P. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. We get another wrap variant here for the Cybertruck. I'll be honest, I didn't think Tesla was going to do anything in-house when it comes to wraps, and they still might not, but based on these sightings, I'm at least open to it. But it also could just be Tesla reminding everyone that wrapping this vehicle should be easy, a bit more affordable, and can of course change the look so it's not just the stainless steel, given the lack of color options. Just a quick note on Tesla's entry into Malaysia. Tesla became the first applicant to be approved under the BEV program, which allows them to sell cars in Malaysia without approved permit rules, making imported cars cheaper. Earlier this week, we talked about how Tesla is now tapping TSMC and Samsung to make Tesla's Hardware 5 FSD computer chip. On that front, the lack of labor in the United States, and specifically the lack of skilled labor for semiconductor fabs, is causing some problems. TSMC is pushing back the start of mass production at the Arizona plant until 2025 from 2024 earlier. The chairman said there's an insufficient amount of skilled workers with the specialized expertise required for equipment installation in a semiconductor-grade facility. It's worth noting the planned production in 2025 is going to be on the 4 nanometer process, which is what Tesla said FSD 5 would be running on. This is after a couple weeks ago, TSMC said they were going to send about 500 of these specialized workers to help move things along at the construction site in Arizona. One exec said there are not enough US workers who have good firsthand experience specifically building semiconductor manufacturing facilities. Not only that, but wages for construction workers on the US plant are several times higher than in Taiwan, when the same level of efficiency is no guarantee. And as you would expect, there are some language and communication barriers in this endeavor as well. I don't know for sure if Tesla has plans to use supply from this facility in Arizona. It wouldn't surprise me at all, as we just heard that AMD is actually planning on using some of the supply from that factory once it's online. But when it comes to the CHIPS Act and us successfully bringing some of this manufacturing of the semiconductor industry to the United States to be less reliant on Taiwan, it may take a little bit longer, and there may be some other challenges that other people weren't aware of. From Tesla Scope, FSD Beta 11.4.6 is now rolling out to employees, but as we saw with 11.4.5, never actually made it to end customers, so same thing may happen here. It may not be customer viable, but we'll wait and see. I think most hardware for vehicles are on a software version ahead of this one, so if you have hardware 4 and you're waiting for FSD, you may still be waiting for another new update. The Tesla Model Y was Europe's #1 seller overall in the first half of the year, the first time a Tesla model or a battery electric car has been the region's top seller over a period of 6 months. Having a look at the first 6 months of the year, this is a top 50 list, but you can only see the top 20 right now. Just wanted to point out the Model Y year over year for this first half, up 211%. No other automaker is even eclipsing up 100%. I think it's also worth mentioning that the #2 vehicle, the Dacia Sandero, can be had for between $10,000 and $20,000 US depending on the trim level. Volvo's CEO just came out and said already they have no plans to adopt Tesla's autonomous technology, saying, "We've already made that decision in terms of what we want to control internally in terms of our technology stack. We've chosen we want to be in full control of our ADAS all the way up to full autonomous driving software." It's pretty easy to say something like this now, but we'll see what the story's like in a few years. A quick note on Twitter turning the tables a little bit with their subpoena to Elizabeth Warren over communication with US agencies. Elon said, "Fight fire with fire." Let me be clear, I do not root for anyone's demise, but I will say if there's any justice to be had, I look forward to it. Earlier this week, we heard that the order numbers for the Model Y rear-wheel drive in Korea had exceeded 15,000 in under a week. Today, we get another update, and now the number may have exceeded 22,000. That's over 3,000 orders per day. Of course, not really sustainable. There was a lot of pent-up demand, but still a great start for the first week, and delivery should start this quarter. One more quick mention on Tesla Energy. In the first 2 quarters of this year, they have deployed over 7.4 gigawatt hours of battery storage. That's already more than the entirety of 2022. This is with one Megapack factory operating somewhere in the neighborhood of 50% capacity, when we know we're going to have 5, 10 plus of these Megapack factories globally in the years to come. And yes, the broader Tesla Energy that hit 18.4% margins in Q2 includes the Powerwall and solar and some other things, but it's a good reminder if they can hit 18.4% margins with its main driver, Megapacks, having one factory at about 50% capacity, that's a great sign for things to come when these Megapack factories are fully scaled. James Stevenson asked about a line on Tesla's Q2 deck where they mentioned fleet-based profits in the future. I think a lot of us, when we hear the word fleet, we immediately think about businesses and them running commercial operations, but Martin gave us some clarification. The obvious fleet-based business for other OEMs is service and parts. For Tesla, it's more than that, like superchargers, for example, among other things. Fleet-based, dependent mainly on the overall fleet of vehicles, not so much on annual volumes. So when Tesla was talking about fleet profits, it's simply referring to all of the Teslas on the road since inception, making up the car fleet that they can then turn on some software revenue for in time. Ray for Tesla shared an image saying that BYD was now looking into 4680 battery cells. Translating that image, it says BYD is openly recruiting large cylindrical battery suppliers, regarded as one of the priority solutions for performance and economy by the industry. First, Tesla has made a heavy bet, and now BYD has also joined. The list of things that other automakers are copying from Tesla continues to grow, and what does that tell us? You already know. There were 2 new battery energy storage projects announced in New South Wales. One of them in Muswellbrook is going to be a 300 megawatt hour system using Tesla Megapacks, about 75 of them. These projects are among 27 renewable transmission and storage projects proposed for New South Wales, and the Minister for Energy said batteries are not only critical to supporting our state's transition to net zero, they'll assist us to get there sooner. While those numbers may sound large in the grand scheme of things, it's really like the warm-up before the game even starts. The Australian energy market operator has modeled a need for 640 gigawatt hours of energy storage in the national electricity market by 2050. Well guys, it's been a good run, but I think it might actually be over. Jim Cramer said, "Make no mistake, Netflix and Tesla are 2 of the greatest investments of all time, and I got heard nothing at all last night that makes me feel differently about them." In case you're not familiar with the culture, there's an ongoing joke that whatever Jim Cramer says, the opposite actually happens, because many times in the past that has been actually what happened. Buckle up. Even Elon knows we're in trouble. On the Tesla Configurator, you can now plug in your local zip code and it will spit out any state incentives in addition to the federal tax credit. As always, definitely talk to a tax professional to make sure you qualify, but just know that it's there. Along those lines, Vic on Twitter shared a screenshot of an email he got from Tesla talking about some state incentives in New Jersey, up to $11,500 available. Not really advertising, but a form of marketing. If you're not familiar, there's a pretty cool website, Visual Stocks with a Z. You can create a free account and see some of these dashboards with interactive graphs and charts for your favorite companies. Here's one, everybody's favorite chart, Tesla's operating leverage, showing us their revenue in the blue and operating expenses in the pink. When people say things like economies of scale and manufacturing efficiencies, this is what they're referring to. With software 2023.26 and later, Spotify gets some much requested design updates and hopefully some new features. We don't yet know exactly what has changed, but if you're a Spotify user, be sure to check for the latest update. For now, you may need to click around for yourself to see what's actually new. And the ability to see all of the live cameras at once is now active. Not only that, but you can adjust for warmer display colors to reduce blue light, more customizations for the scroll wheel, and the blind spot camera can now be moved on the touchscreen in the Model S and X, along with a new game and Bluetooth game controller support for Model 3 and Y. I clicked around Tesla's inventory for this one. It may be a little spotty depending on where you're at and what you're looking for, but just to put it on your radar, if you're in the market for a Tesla inventory vehicle, they may have increased the current discount, so be sure to take a look. I've been looking for updates on the Panasonic factory in Kansas, and we finally get one, although it's not all positive. Yes, construction is underway as you can see, but given how much power this facility is expected to use, now the utility company is asking for a rate hike on electricity rates in the area that, yes, the residents of the area would be forced to pay. This 4 million square foot Panasonic battery factory will require 2 new substations, upgrades to 3 current substations, and work on 31 miles of transmission lines. The utility company Evergy already a couple months ago asked for rate hikes for approval of 6% and up to 25% in certain regions, so this hike for Panasonic would be in addition to those. So there will undoubtedly be many challenges in this transition. However, as you can see, this photo was on July 7th, so they're making pretty good progress. If you forgot, this facility should supply mostly Tesla when it's up and running. It sounds like some of these EV battery plants in North America for legacy auto may actually be outside of the purview of these UAW negotiations, making for an interesting situation. Nearly all of the announced plants are separate joint ventures with their own operations, negotiations, and contracts. Contracts aren't under the umbrella of labor agreements being negotiated with GM, Ford, Stellantis ahead of the September 14th deadline. Trying to argue these joint venture plants are therefore not legally part of these discussions. Right now though, GM is the only Detroit automaker with a joint venture battery plant in operation and unionized. The latest update, Ultium and the UAW are still far apart on a deal for wages and benefits. 2 days before these negotiations were supposed to start, the UAW put out a white paper claiming some safety issues at some of these Ultium plants. But an Ultium spokeswoman said those reports are knowingly false and misleading. Negotiations off to a great start. Nissan doing its best Toyota Motors impersonation, getting one of its legacy plants ready for solid-state batteries. A Nissan plant in Japan will next year begin pilot production of advanced solid-state batteries. They're saying at this plant about 40% of the old engine factory's output is already dedicated to electric motor output, like units for the e-Power hybrid system. Nissan believes it can deliver a battery by 2028 that holds twice the energy of a lithium-ion battery, charges in 1/3 the time, and costs $75 per kilowatt hour. Let me just set a reminder here for 5 years. Alrighty. Ford's director of EV development was asked in a recent interview, "You're not concerned that EVs may be piling up," referring to at dealers, that article we talked about earlier. He said, "It's a little premature to be concerned about a pileup. We're just loading up our dealers. Until now, every Mach-E and Lightning was back-ordered and people had to wait months. Now we'll have more and better deals. We're in Moore's chasm in the adoption curve." If you missed the episode we talked about this, it's right here, the gap between the early adopters and the early majority. He said now we're moving to the mainstream, but that may take a little time to get going. We think this is a little valley, but customers who have them love them. JB Straubel and Redwood Materials are in talks right now to raise about $700 million. That would help it fund the company's first major plant in Nevada and would value Redwood at $5 billion. At full capacity, the plant's output is expected to support the production of more than 1 million EVs per year. Which brings us to this. There's a clause in the Inflation Reduction Act that I think a lot of people are overlooking. The IRA includes a clause that automatically qualifies EV battery materials recycled in the United States as American-made for subsidies regardless of their origin. So this qualifies automakers using US recycled battery materials for EV production incentives. More than a dozen industry officials have said that is kicking off a United States factory building boom, encouraging automakers to research more recyclable batteries. Naturally, China already accounts for most of the global lithium-ion battery recycling, but this is encouraging US companies to move faster on recycling efforts than their counterparts in the EU. And this access to funding and the Made in America incentive means several US plants are already being built. I've said it before, I know battery recycling is not really an exciting topic yet, but I'm telling you, whether it's 5, 10, or 15 years, it's going to become a huge and a very important deal for driving down costs of electric vehicles. And guess what? The company that can do it most efficiently and close off their supply chain loop the most is going to win, and I have to like Tesla's chances working in partnership to some degree with Redwood and JB. I cannot vouch for this account. I've never seen it before, but they said breaking, Tesla has added Bitcoin back into their code for payment on their website. In some other shared images, you will see Bitcoin order agreement. I know Bitcoin is a polarizing topic for many people, especially in the Tesla community, but as of Q1, you can see that over 50% of the Bitcoin mining is done now with renewable energy. And the sustainable composition of the Bitcoin network is currently increasing at about 6% per year. Having more payment options is a good thing. I know the Bitcoin community that is super passionate would love to see Tesla do something like this, a little more support. But how many people are going to buy a Tesla or even a Tesla product with Bitcoin? Probably not too many. We've talked a lot lately about Tesla improving its finance offerings, and today, as Sawyer pointed out, they're now offering 84-month financing, dropping the average monthly payment by about 11% relative to the 72-month option. So the question becomes, can you beat whatever your APR would be in the markets or investing elsewhere? Hope you guys have a safe and a wonderful weekend. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.